Welcome to the Republic of Korbov, an island nation isolated from the rest of the world. In 1193, the Polynesians discovered an island rich in natural resources and with favorable geographical features, naming it Korbov. But an unfortunate natural disaster forced the remaining survivors to settle there. Their own culture emerged, one of industrialism, art, and above all, a deep fear of the ocean. The Korbovians organized their society in guilds, each controlled by an oligarch and a president that oversaw the entirety of the nation. The members of the guilds worshipped their oligarchs, and slowly a divide grew among the islanders until different guilds began competing against each other. Now, the president, Sergei Pavlov, has contracted a terminal disease, and following Korbovian tradition, he will choose his successor among the oligarchs before he dies. Thus begins a race among the oligarchs to become the more favorable in Sergei's eyes, and ultimately be named President of the Republic of Korbov. Players need to work on several tasks, ranging from drawings to riddles, and need to use the rewards to improve the stats of the oligarchs. At the end of the game, each guild will receive a score based on their oligarch stats, and the guild with the biggest score wins. Child's play can be extremely fun, and it is regretful that we as adults don't often engage in it. Thus, I created a game which has the complexity and mechanics sought by grown people while creating a feeling of nostalgia in the small mini-games contained in it. Oligarchy forces the players to utilize their leadership, cognitive dexterity, long-term strategy, and money management skills. But all of this is futile if one does not go back to their childhood games of talent shows and hangman. Further, I wanted to make this both a collaborative and competitive game, and try to solve the main issue with other games that attempt the same. In games that have groups, it is often that at least one person from each group doesn't feel like they played as much as the rest. So to tackle this problem, I gave each player completely different tasks to pursue during the game, while preserving the collaborative aspects by the winning condition. That is, that the group whose leader has the better stats wins. While designing the game, one of the game design concepts I constantly had in mind was the rhetoric my game would project into its players, and how it would influence players' emotions through elements inside the game as procedural rhetoric, as proposed by Ian Bogost. Biggest of all is the metaphor of how we organize our society between leaders and followers, and how the latter usually follows society's leaders blindly without giving a second thought to what they want in life. Oligarchy is designed in a way in which the only thing that ultimately matters is the welfare of the oligarch, and workers have to work extensively towards this objective while getting nothing in return. This relates to the idea that most people work to achieve goals set by society, such as money or status, but in the end, in most cases, neither of these goals gives people a fulfilling life. As Stoics have said since ancient Greece, we should not, like sheep, follow the herd of creatures in front of us, making our way where others go, not where we ought to go. Even if during the game itself players don't have the ability to simply stop working for the good of the oligarch and do what they desire, the game mechanics will hopefully make players stop and ponder about their goals in life after they finish playing. I was also always aware of how my game embodied inclusivity in its characters, especially that of women and people of different ethnicities. I tried to make the selection of workers and oligarchs as diverse as possible so that no group was left out. Half of the oligarchs were women, a lot of the characters are people of color, and they all vary in age, clothing style, and religion. While the game itself was not made to try and combat racism head-on, for the rhetoric of the game is something else entirely, I did my best to incorporate the thoughts of David Leonard into the design. Building Oligarchy from scratch gave me several insights into both the art of game design and entertainment, and I exited the experience having a greater idea of what makes certain activities fun and a deep practical sense of what constitutes good and bad game mechanics. I learned that, above all, for a game to be enjoyable and rewarding, its design must immerse the player into the gameplay, and for the brief period in which players engage with it, make them forget about their struggles in the outside world because they are now focusing on fictional problems and fictional competition, while still gaining skills that can be applied to their lives, such as management and persistence. Overall, this is a game that accommodates all types of players. The most strategic player will assume the role of the oligarch or the hand, the fastest players will assume the roles of workers, and everybody has a chance to pitch into the strategy of the guild. Everything from Korbov's map to the player IDs and even naming groups as guilds sends an unconscious message to players that they are no longer in the real world, rather imagining themselves as Korbovians answering to their oligarchs and trying to seize power over the island. All in all, I hope players exit the gameplay feeling both cognitively and physically challenged, and with a sense of nostalgia and excitement towards the experience. Hope you enjoy the game.